Drift gently into a quiet corner of the land of Oz, where the wind moves softly through emerald fields and distant lights glow like sleepy stars. This is a story of two young women, Elphaba and Glinda, long before their names became legend, before good and wicked were written in history. As the world around them slowly changes, so do they, walking separate paths shaped by choices, friendship, and fate. Let your thoughts slow down as their story of wicked for good unfolds, where every moment feels like a dream, and every whisper of magic carries you deeper toward rest. Now, close your eyes, and let the night carry you gently into dreams. In the land of Oz, a quiet suffering had taken root beneath the glittering surface of its cities. Far from the cheerful songs and bright colors that many believed defined the land, there were places hidden from view where animals endured hardship. They were forced into labor, made to carry heavy loads far beyond their strength. Even as their legs trembled and their bodies weakened, they were driven forward without mercy. Chains clinked and whips cracked through the air, echoing across the work yard. The animals could no longer speak for themselves as they once had. Fear and exhaustion filled their eyes, yet they continued because they had no choice. It seemed as though no one would come to help them. But on that day something changed. A strange presence swept through the air. The guards felt it first, a sudden unease that made them turn their heads. The animals sensed it too. Their fear shifted into something else, something restless and alive. One by one, they began to resist. Chains rattled more violently, and then, with a sudden burst of strength, they broke free. The guards shouted in panic. One man raised his whip, ready to strike again, but before it could land, it was torn from his grasp. High above them, riding swiftly through the sky, was a figure dressed in dark robes. The Wicked Witch of the West had arrived. Elphaba. She moved with speed and precision, her broom cutting through the air as she swooped down. One by one, the men who had held the animals captive were disarmed and defeated. There was no hesitation in her actions. She fought not out of anger alone, but out of determination. Below her, the animals scattered, running as fast as they could toward freedom. Some stumbled, and used to moving without chains, but they did not stop. For the first time in a long while they had hope. When the last of the guards had fled or fallen, Elphaba descended to the ground. She stood still for a moment, catching her breath as she watched the animals disappear into the distance. It should have felt like a victory, but it did not last. A sudden rush of wings filled the air. She looked up to see a swarm of flying monkeys approaching her. They had been sent to capture her. Without wasting a second, Elphaba leapt back onto her broom and took to the sky. She flew swiftly, weaving through the air as the monkeys chased after her. It was not a fight she intended to take on that day. She escaped into the distance, leaving the chaos behind her. By the time the sun set, the story had already spread across the Emerald City. But it was not the truth that people heard. Rumors moved quickly, twisting events into something far more frightening. Madame Morrible, a powerful and influential figure, stood before the citizens and spoke with urgency. She told them that Elphaba was dangerous, that she had turned against Oz, and that she was spreading lies about the wizard. The people listened. Fear settled into their hearts. They whispered about the Wicked Witch, wondering when she would strike next. Deep within the woods, far from the city's watchful eyes, Elphaba had taken refuge. Hidden among the trees, she found a quiet place where she could think. She knew what people were saying about her. She knew how quickly the truth had been buried. But she had not given up. She believed that Oz deserved better. The animals deserved better. And somehow, she would find a way to reveal the truth. While Elphaba lived in hiding, another story was unfolding in the Emerald City. Glinda had stepped into a new role. She was now known as the Good Witch, and the people adored her. Wherever she went, she was greeted with cheers and admiration. She wore elegant gowns and carried herself with grace, becoming a symbol of hope for the citizens. Yet behind the smiles and celebrations, there were expectations placed upon her. On the day she prepared to present herself as a leader, she stood in her room, surrounded by beautiful dresses. Everything had to be perfect. Every detail mattered. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Madame Morrible entered, her expression serious. She told Glinda that the people were frightened and uncertain. They needed reassurance, someone to lift their spirits and guide them through these troubling times. Then she revealed something new. A special invention had been prepared for Glinda. It was a floating carriage, designed to carry her through the air. With the press of a button, it created a shimmering bubble around her, giving the illusion of magical flight. Morrible explained that this would help maintain the image the people believed in. Even if Glinda did not possess true magical power, appearances could shape reality in the eyes of others. She handed Glinda a wand as well, encouraging her to embrace the role fully. The wand reminded Glinda of her childhood. She remembered a birthday long ago when she had received a wand as a gift. Eager to impress her friends, she had tried to perform a trick. Nothing had happened. There had been no magic. But then, by chance, a rainbow had appeared in the sky. Seizing the moment, she had claimed it as her own doing. Her friends had believed her, and for a brief time she had felt special. Still, she had known the truth. She had no real magic. Her mother had comforted her that day, telling her that being loved was enough. And now, standing in the present, Glinda realized that she had achieved exactly that. The people loved her. With that thought, she stepped into her carriage and rose above the crowd. The citizens of the Emerald City cheered loudly as she appeared. Fiero stood beside her, now serving as the general of the army. Together, they presented a united front. Glinda addressed the people, assuring them that they would be protected. She spoke of the wizard's leadership and promised that Oz would remain strong. Morrible followed with a declaration that the land would soon be free of the Wicked Witch. Fiero added that the army was actively searching for Elphaba and would not stop until she was found. Then, without warning, Morrible announced something unexpected. Glinda and Fiero were to be married. The crowd erupted in excitement, but Fiero stood frozen in shock. This had not been his decision. Later, away from the crowd, he confronted Glinda. He could not agree with the lies being spread about Elphaba. It did not feel right. Glinda admitted that she did not like it either, but she believed it was her responsibility to maintain order. The people needed someone to believe in. Fiero hesitated, then gave in. If marrying her would bring stability, he would do it. Back at the celebration, Glinda smiled for the crowd, though her thoughts were complicated. She told herself that even if things had not turned out as she once imagined, she was finally happy. But just as the celebration reached its peak, everything changed. A dark figure appeared above them. Elphaba had returned. Panic spread instantly. People screamed and scattered as she descended. With a wave of her magic, she wrote words across the sky. "Our wizard lies." For a brief moment, the truth hung there for all to see. But Morrible acted quickly. With her own magic, she altered the message, changing it into something far more threatening. "Oz dies." The crowd gasped in terror. The meaning had been twisted once again. The monkeys rushed after Elphaba as she took to the sky, and soon she was gone. The moment passed, but the fear remained. And as the people clung to the version of the story they had been given, the divide between truth and belief grew even wider. The forest was quiet, but not peaceful. Elphaba moved carefully between the tall trees, her footsteps soft against the earth. The deeper she went, the more distant the noise of the Emerald City became, until it faded into nothing at all. Here, hidden beneath thick branches and shadow, she could breathe without the weight of watchful eyes. Still, her mind would not rest. She thought about what had happened in the city, the way the crowd had turned on her, the way her message had been twisted before it could take root. It was not just that people feared her. They had been taught to fear her, and that was far more difficult to fight. Not far from her hiding place stood a small, worn cottage. It had once been a place of comfort, a quiet retreat from the world. Now it felt like a reminder of everything that had changed. Inside, Elphaba paused and let her fingers brush against the familiar surfaces. She could almost hear echoes of laughter, memories of a time when she had not been alone, when friendships had felt simple and the future had seemed full of possibility. Those days felt distant now. Since the death of Governor Throp, the balance of power had shifted. His daughter, Nessarose, had taken his place, ruling over Munchkinland with firm authority. From afar, Elphaba had heard whispers of new laws and stricter control. She did not yet know how far things had gone. In Munchkinland, the atmosphere was tense. Nessarose sat behind a large desk, papers spread before her. Her expression was sharp, her posture rigid. She had taken on her role with determination, but there was something else beneath the surface, something unsettled. A man stood nearby holding out a document. "It just needs your signature," he said carefully. Nessarose glanced at it. The law would require animals to carry permits if they wished to travel. Without one, they would be stopped, turned back, or worse. Bach stood across the room, watching in disbelief. "You can't do this," he said. "It isn't right." Nessarose's grip tightened on the paper. "If I don't," she replied, "they'll think I'm weak. They'll think I'm just like her." She did not need to say Elphaba's name. It hung unspoken in the air. Her voice softened slightly, though the tension remained. "She left," Nessarose continued. "When I needed her most, she wasn't there." There was pain behind her words, but she pushed it down quickly. She signed the document. Bach looked at her, struggling to understand. "I stayed," he said quietly. "When your father—" "I know," Nessarose interrupted, "and I'm grateful." For a moment, the room was silent. Then Bach took a breath. "But I can't stay here forever," he said. "I have to move on." The words struck harder than he intended. Nessarose's expression changed instantly. Anger flared, sharp and sudden. "Then go," she snapped. "Leave." Bach hesitated, but only for a moment. He turned and walked out, the door closing firmly behind him. Left alone, Nessarose stared at the empty space, her emotions twisting together in a way she could not easily untangle. The next morning, Bach arrived at the station, ready to leave for the Emerald City. He carried little with him, only what he needed to start fresh. But he did not get far. A guard stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "No one leaves without a permit," the guard said. Bach frowned. "Since when?" "New law," the guard replied. Bach looked around. Others were being stopped as well, turned away one by one. The realization sank in slowly. Nessarose had signed that order. He stood there, stunned, as the opportunity to leave slipped away. Elsewhere, hidden pathways wound beneath the land of Oz. Elphaba followed one such path until she reached a clearing where a group of animals had gathered. They stood close together, their families beside them, their belongings minimal. They were preparing to leave. A narrow passage led away from Oz, a secret route into the unknown. Elphaba stepped forward, her voice urgent. "You don't have to go," she said. "We can fight this. We can change things." The animals looked at her, uncertain. "If we stay," one of them replied, "we'll be captured, caged again." Before Elphaba could answer, a familiar figure approached. Dr. Dillamond. Relief washed over her as she rushed to him, embracing him tightly. "You're safe," she said. He nodded, though his expression was heavy. "We don't have a choice," he told her. "We have to leave Oz." Elphaba shook her head. "There's nothing out there," she said. "Beyond Oz, there's emptiness. You won't survive." "And here?" he asked gently. "Will you?" She hesitated. "They won't stop hunting you," Dillamond continued. "Not until you're gone." Elphaba's voice softened, but her determination did not waver. "I love this place," she said. "Even if it doesn't love me back, it's still my home, and I won't give up on it." She turned to the others, her words growing stronger. "This land belongs to all of us," she said. "We shouldn't have to run. We should stand and fight for it." There was a shift among the animals. Some looked at each other, considering her words. For a moment it seemed like hope might take hold. Then a voice cut through the air. "Don't listen to her." The cowardly lion stepped forward, his gaze fixed on Elphaba. "She can't be trusted," he said. The monkeys circled above, watching. Elphaba frowned. "You know that isn't true." The lion's expression hardened. "You took me from my family," he said. "You changed my life." "I saved you," Elphaba replied. "You were trapped." "And the monkeys?" he challenged. "You gave them wings." She hesitated. "I was tricked," she admitted. "I didn't know what would happen, but the damage had already been done." Doubt spread quickly through the group. The animals who had begun to believe in her now stepped back. One by one they turned away. The passage remained open, and they chose it over uncertainty. Elphaba stood still as they left, the hope she had tried to build slipping through her fingers. She was alone again. Back in Munchkinland, the situation had only grown more complicated. Bach had not been allowed to leave. Instead, he found himself pulled deeper into Nesseros' world. She kept him close, insisting that he stay by her side as her assistant. But something had changed in him. Where there had once been kindness, there was now distance. His words were shorter, his expression colder. One day, he noticed a newspaper left nearby. The headline caught his attention immediately. Glinda and Fiero were to be married. His heart sank. Without a word, he took the paper and left the room. Behind him, a window creaked open. A soft breeze passed through, carrying with it a presence that Nesseros felt before she saw. "Elphaba," she whispered. Her sister stepped out from the shadows. "I need your help," Elphaba said. Nesseros' expression hardened instantly. "You didn't even come to our father's funeral," she replied. "And now you expect my help?" Elphaba met her gaze. "He never cared about me," she said quietly. "I don't owe him anything." The words only deepened the divide between them. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Elphaba tried again. "We can fix things," she said. "Together." Nesseros shook her head. "You helped everyone else," she said. "But not me." There was a pause. Then her voice softened, just slightly. "But now, I need you." She closed her eyes, remembering something from the past. "I want to go back," she said, "to the night I met Bach. I want to feel that happiness again." Elphaba hesitated, then reached for the Grimoire. The ancient book responded, its pages shifting on their own. A spell revealed itself. Carefully, Elphaba began to read. Magic filled the room, soft at first, then growing stronger. The air shimmered as the spell took hold. The shoes Nesseros wore began to glow. Slowly, she lifted off the ground. For the first time, she stood without support. Her face lit up with pure joy. "It's working," she said, laughing. Elphaba smiled. For once, her magic had brought happiness instead of fear. But the moment did not last. The door burst open. Bach stood there, staring in shock at what he had just seen. And everything was about to change once again. Bach stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide with shock. He had not expected to see Elphaba again, and certainly not like this, standing in the middle of the room with magic still lingering in the air. Nessarose hovered slightly above the ground, her face glowing with excitement, as though nothing in the world could go wrong. "Elphaba came to help me," Nessarose said quickly, her voice filled with joy. "Everything is going to be better now." But Bach barely seemed to hear her. His attention remained fixed on Elphaba. Fear flickered across his face, mixed with something else. Confusion, perhaps, or disbelief. "I have to go," he said suddenly. Nessarose blinked. "Go? Where?" "To the Emerald City," he replied. "I need to see Glinda. Before it's too late." The words struck like a sudden storm. Nessarose's expression changed instantly. The happiness she had just felt vanished, replaced by anger and desperation. "You're not going anywhere," she said. Bach stepped back slightly, uneasy. "I have to tell her how I feel," he continued. "Before she marries Fiyero." The room seemed to tighten around them. Elphaba watched carefully, sensing the tension rising. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Nessa, let him go," she said. "You can't force someone to stay." But Nessarose shook her head. "No," she said sharply. "He belongs here, with me." Her emotions began to spiral. The magic that had filled the room moments earlier now felt unstable, responding to her anger. "Elphaba, do something," she demanded. "Make him stay." Elphaba hesitated. "I can't," she said. "That's not something magic should be used for." But Nessarose was no longer listening. Driven by jealousy and fear, she rushed to the Grimoire. The book opened again, its pages turning rapidly as if reacting to her emotions. Without fully understanding the words, she began to read aloud. "Elphaba, stop her," Bach said, panic rising in his voice. "She's saying it wrong," Elphaba warned. "Nessa, you don't know what that spell will do." But it was too late. The spell took hold. Bach staggered, clutching his chest as a sharp pain spread through him. He tried to move, but his body would not obey. His breathing grew uneven, and he collapsed to the floor. Nessarose gasped. "What's happening?" she cried. "Elphaba, fix it." Elphaba knelt beside him, her mind racing. "A spell like that can't be undone," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "But I can try something else." She pushed Nessarose back. "Leave," she said. "I need space." Nessarose hesitated, torn between fear and anger, but she stepped out of the room. Inside, Elphaba turned back to Bach. "Hold on," she whispered. She opened the Grimoire once more, searching desperately for something, anything, that could save him. The pages shifted, revealing a new spell. Without hesitation, she began to cast it. The magic filled the room again, stronger this time, heavier. It wrapped around Bach, surrounding him in a faint glow. The air grew still, as though the world itself was holding its breath. Outside, Nessarose waited, pacing back and forth. Moments felt like hours. Finally, the door opened. Elphaba stepped out. Nessarose rushed toward her. "Is he all right?" she asked. Elphaba nodded slowly. "He's alive," she said. "He's resting." Relief flooded Nessarose's face. "But," Elphaba continued, her voice quieter now, "he won't need his heart anymore." The words did not fully make sense. but Nessarose was too relieved to question them. Elphaba turned away. "I have to go," she said. "So soon?" Nessarose asked. "Stay, please." Elphaba paused. "I've done what I can," she replied. "But it's never enough for you, is it?" There was no anger in her voice, only sadness. Before Nessarose could respond, Elphaba left. Silence settled over the room. For a moment, everything seemed calm again. Then, slowly, the door behind Nessarose creaked open. Bach stepped out, but something was wrong. His movements were stiff, unnatural. His body gleamed faintly, reflecting the light in a way that no human skin should. Nessarose stared at him in horror. "Bach?" she whispered. He looked at her, his expression filled with confusion and fear. "What did you do to me?" he asked. His voice sounded different, hollow, distant. Nessarose shook her head. "It wasn't me," she said quickly. "It was Elphaba. She did this to you." Bach looked down at himself, taking in the truth of what he had become. Tin Man. His hands trembled as he processed it. I can't go back," he said. The life he had known was gone. Anger began to rise within him, sharp and overwhelming. He took a step toward Nessarose, his movements heavy. "You ruined me," he said. Nessarose backed away. "No," she insisted. "It wasn't my fault." But Bach could not hear her anymore. With one last look, filled with pain and resentment, he turned and walked out. Nessarose stood alone once again. Everything she had tried to hold on to had slipped away. Meanwhile, the Emerald City prepared for celebration. The streets were filled with decorations, bright colors and music echoing through the air. People gathered from all around, eager to witness what was being called the grandest event in Oz. Glinda's wedding. Inside her chamber, Glinda stood before a mirror, her gown carefully arranged. Every detail was perfect, just as it needed to be. But something felt off. A sudden crash broke the silence. The window behind her shattered. Startled, she turned and stepped onto the balcony. "I know you're there," she said softly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from the shadows, Elphaba appeared. Glinda's breath caught. "You shouldn't be here," she said quickly. "If the monkeys see you." But before she could finish, she stepped forward and embraced her. "I'm glad you're alive," she whispered. Elphaba returned the hug, though her expression remained serious. "I just came to see you," she said. Glinda pulled back, studying her face. "We can fix this," she said. "We'll talk to the wizard. We'll make everything right." Elphaba shook her head. "It's too late for that," she replied. "This is between me and him." Glinda reached for her. "Please," she said, but Elphaba stepped away. Without another word, she turned and disappeared into the night. Glinda stood there, watching her go, a sense of unease settling deep within her. The celebration below continued, unaware of what was about to unfold. And as the music played on, the path ahead grew more uncertain with every passing moment. The Emerald City shimmered with light as the celebration reached its peak. Music filled the air, and the streets sparkled with decorations prepared for the grand wedding. Citizens gathered in excitement, unaware of the tension quietly building beneath the surface. To them, this was a moment of joy, a promise that everything in Oz was still right and good. Inside the palace, the Wizard of Oz stood in a private chamber, examining one of his many inventions. He adjusted a small device carefully, his focus fixed, as though perfection in these creations could somehow maintain the illusion he had built. But he was not alone for long. A sudden presence filled the room. "Elphaba," he said without turning. She stepped forward from the shadows, her expression firm. "It's over," she told him. "You can't hide the truth anymore." Before the wizard could respond, another voice joined them. Glinda entered the room, her face tense. Elphaba, wait, she said. Let's talk about this. But Elphaba did not take her eyes off the wizard. Tell her, she said. Tell everyone what you really are. The wizard hesitated. For a moment, the confidence he usually carried seemed to fade. Then slowly he spoke. I don't have any real powers, he admitted. I never did. The words hung heavily in the air. Glinda stared at him, stunned. You've been pretending? She asked. The wizard gave a small, almost helpless shrug. I gave them something to believe in, he said. That's what matters. Elphaba stepped closer. You lied, she said. You built everything on lies. The wizard sighed. People don't want the truth, he replied. They want hope. They want something to hold on to. And if I give them that, does it really matter how? Glinda looked between them, her thoughts racing. There has to be another way, she said. We can start over. Tell them everything. Fix this. But Elphaba shook her head. No, she said. Truth shouldn't depend on what people want to believe. The wizard's tone shifted slightly, becoming more persuasive. You could be part of this, he told Elphaba. You could stand with us instead of against us. For a moment, the room fell quiet. Then Elphaba spoke again. I'll stand with you, she said slowly. On one condition. The wizard's eyes lit up with interest. Name it. Stop blaming the animals, she said. Set them free. All of them. The wizard considered it. Then he nodded. Done. Glinda smiled, relief washing over her. This can work, she said. We can fix everything. The wizard handed Elphaba a set of keys. Go ahead, he said. Free them. Elphaba took the keys and left the room. Moments later, she reached a large chamber filled with cages. Inside them, monkeys shifted nervously, their wings heavy and unnatural. Some looked at her with fear, others with faint recognition. She approached the first cage and unlocked it. You're free, she said softly. One by one, she opened each cage, releasing them. I'm sorry, she added, for everything. The monkeys hesitated at first, but then they began to move, stepping out into the open. Though they could no longer speak, their movements carried a sense of understanding. They followed her, trusting her once again. But as they moved through the space, one of them, Chistery, their leader, paused and gestured for her to follow. Curious, Elphaba stepped after him. He led her to a hidden passage. Inside, the truth waited. The tunnel stretched deep beneath the palace, lined with more cages. Far more than she had expected. Animals of all kinds were trapped inside, weak and silent. Among them, Elphaba spotted a familiar face. Dr. Dillamond. Her heart sank. She rushed to him. Doctor, she said, kneeling beside the cage. He looked at her, but something was wrong. He could not speak. The realization struck her hard. The wizard had taken that from him. Footsteps echoed behind her. The wizard had followed. Some animals can't be trusted with freedom, he said calmly. Elphaba stood, anger rising within her. You did this, she said. I protected Oz, he replied. But Elphaba had heard enough. She raised her hand, and magic surged through the room. The cages began to break open, chains snapping apart one after another. I won't let you do this anymore, she said. I'll fight you for as long as it takes. The animals poured out of their cages, filling the tunnel with movement. Above them, the wedding ceremony had begun. Glinda walked slowly down the aisle, her gown flowing behind her. The crowd watched in admiration as she approached the altar where Fiero stood waiting. Everything appeared perfect, until it wasn't. The doors burst open. The animals flooded into the hall. Chaos erupted instantly. Guests screamed and scattered as the animals moved through the room. Decorations were knocked aside, tables overturned. The music stopped, replaced by confusion and fear. Fiero rushed to Glinda's side, guiding her away from the chaos. "Stay with me," he said. Nearby, Madame Morrible tried to regain control, but she was knocked off balance as the scene spiraled out of control. At the center of it all, Elphaba stood face to face with the wizard. She grabbed him, holding him firmly. "It's over," she said, but the moment did not last. Fiero entered the scene with his soldiers. "Bring water," he ordered. The troops moved quickly. Fiero approached Elphaba, his expression unreadable. "Let him go," he said. The wizard looked relieved, believing he was about to be saved. Elphaba hesitated. Then, suddenly, everything changed. Fiero turned. He pointed his weapon not at Elphaba, but at the wizard. "Get in the cage," he said. The wizard froze. The soldiers hesitated as well, unsure of what was happening. But Fiero did not waver. He took the keys, unlocked one of the cages, and forced the wizard inside. Then he handed Elphaba her broom. "Go," he told her. At that moment, Glinda arrived. She stopped in her tracks, stunned by what she saw. "Fiero?" she said. He met her gaze, his expression filled with quiet certainty. "I'm leaving," he said. "With her." The words hit harder than anything else that day. Glinda's heart broke in that instant. Elphaba tried to speak, to explain, but Glinda stepped back. "Just go," she said. There was nothing left to say. Elphaba and Fiero looked at each other, the truth finally clear between them. Then, together, they left. Glinda stood alone in the wreckage of what had been her wedding. Around her, the celebration had turned into chaos. And for the first time, the perfect world she had tried to hold together began to fall apart. The ruins of the wedding still lingered in the air long after the chaos had settled. Broken decorations lay scattered across the ground, and the once joyful music had been replaced by uneasy silence. Citizens whispered among themselves, trying to make sense of what they had witnessed. What was meant to be a perfect celebration had turned into something no one could forget. At the center of it all stood Glinda. Her gown was still immaculate, but everything else around her had changed. The future she had imagined only hours ago had vanished. Fiero was gone. Elphaba had escaped. And the truth, though still hidden from the public, felt closer than ever to breaking through. Madame Morrible approached her, brushing off the remains of cake and dust from her clothes. "We need to act quickly," Morrible said. "Elphaba must be found." Glinda did not respond right away. Her eyes remained fixed on the empty space where Fiero had stood. "We can't rely on the monkeys anymore," Morrible continued. "They've turned against us." Glinda finally looked at her, something colder in her expression than before. "Then we'll use something else," she said. Morrible raised an eyebrow. "What do you suggest?" Glinda hesitated for only a moment. "My sister," she said, "spread a rumor that she's in danger. Elphaba won't ignore that." Morrible considered the idea. "It might work," she admitted. Behind them, the wizard remained shaken from what had just happened. Even though he had been freed from the cage, his confidence had been shaken. "She's too clever," he muttered. "She won't fall for something so simple." "Then we'll make it convincing," Morrible replied. Glinda turned away from them, no longer interested in their doubts. She walked back through the remains of the celebration, each step heavier than the last. When she reached the quiet corner of the ruined hall, she stopped. The truth she had avoided for so long was finally clear. Fiero had never truly loved her. She had been holding onto something that was never hers. The realization broke through her composure, and for the first time, she allowed herself to cry. Far away from the city, Elphaba and Fiero had found refuge in the woods. The trees surrounded them, offering shelter from the world they had left behind. For the first time in what felt like forever, Elphaba allowed herself a moment of peace. "I never thought this would happen," she said softly. Fiero looked at her, a gentle smile on his face. "Neither did I," he admitted. She glanced at him, uncertain. "You're not just saying that?" she asked. "No," he said. "For the first time, I feel like I see things clearly." Elphaba looked away for a moment, as if trying to believe him. "I've always been told I'm different," she said. "That I don't belong." Fiero stepped closer. "You do," he said. "You just haven't been in the right place." The words stayed with her. For a brief moment, the world felt lighter. They rose into the air together, lifted by magic and trust. Above the trees, with the wind around them, they shared a quiet, hopeful moment, one that felt untouched by the troubles below. But Oz was not finished with them. Back in the Emerald City, Morrible began to act. She stood at her window, her expression focused, and raised her hands. Magic gathered around her, dark and powerful. The sky responded. Clouds formed rapidly, swirling into a violent mass. A cyclone. It tore through the land with unstoppable force, ripping through homes and streets. People ran in panic as the winds grew stronger, carrying debris high into the air. In Munchkinland, Nessarose felt the storm before she saw it. The winds howled outside, shaking the walls of her home. She rushed through the halls, searching desperately. "Bach," she called, but there was no answer. The cyclone grew stronger, pulling everything into its path. Far away, Elphaba froze. She felt it. A vision flashed in her mind. A house spinning through the sky, caught in the storm. "Nessa," she whispered. She turned to Fiero, panic in her eyes. "My sister is in danger," she said. "I have to go." Fiero stepped forward. "It's not safe," he warned. "Come with me. I know a place where we can hide." Elphaba shook her head. "I can't leave her," she said. He hesitated, then nodded. "Then I'll find you," he said. "No matter what." Before she left, he added quietly, "We'll be together again." Elphaba held onto those words for a moment. Then she flew into the storm. The wind was relentless, pushing against her as she searched for her sister. Debris filled the air, making it hard to see. And then she saw it. The house. It fell from the sky, crashing down with unstoppable force. The ground shook. By the time Elphaba reached the spot, it was too late. Nessarose was gone. The storm began to fade, leaving destruction behind. Elphaba stood there, unable to move. Grief settled over her, heavy and unyielding. She had tried to save everyone, but she had failed again. Back in the Emerald City, morning arrived with a strange calm. Glinda stood near the edge of the city, guiding a young girl named Dorothy. "If you follow the road," Glinda said gently, "you'll find the wizard. He can help you get home." Dorothy nodded, holding onto her small basket. "Thank you," she said. Glinda watched her go, her expression thoughtful. Once Dorothy was gone, Glinda turned away and made her way toward Munchkinland. The ruins of a small house stood before her. It was quiet, too quiet. She stepped closer, her heart heavy. "Nessa," she whispered. Moments later, a familiar presence appeared behind her. "Elphaba." "I need a moment," Elphaba said softly. Glinda nodded and stepped aside. Elphaba approached the ruins slowly. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have been here." Her voice trembled, but she kept going. "I should have protected you." Glinda watched her, unsure of what to say. "It wasn't your fault," she said finally. "It was the storm." Elphaba turned sharply. "Storms don't just appear," she said. Someone caused this. Her eyes narrowed. And you, she added, sent that girl here. You gave her my sister's shoes. Glinda's expression hardened. She needed help, she said. She took the last thing Nessa had, Elphaba replied. The tension between them rose quickly. You took something from me too, Glinda said. Elphaba frowned. Fiero, Glinda said. Elphaba shook her head. He was never yours, she replied. The words struck deep. Before either of them could stop, anger took over. Glinda slapped Elphaba. Elphaba struck back. They moved against each other, their emotions spilling into action. Magic and force clashed as they fought, neither willing to step back. But the fight ended as quickly as it began. Soldiers surrounded them. Elphaba turned, ready to escape, but she was captured. Shock crossed her face. She looked at Glinda. I never thought you would do this, she said. Glinda stepped back, shaken. I didn't plan this, she said, but the moment had already passed. Elphaba was taken away, and once again the distance between them grew. The soldiers tightened their grip around Elphaba, holding her firmly as she struggled to understand what had just happened. She looked at Glinda, searching for something. An explanation, a sign that this was not what it seemed. But Glinda stood frozen, her expression filled with conflict. I didn't mean for this, Glinda said quietly. Elphaba's voice came out steady, though her eyes revealed the hurt beneath. You used her, she said. You used Nessa to trap me. Glinda shook her head. I didn't think it would go this far, she replied. But before anything more could be said, the sound of wings filled the air. The monkeys arrived. They swept down from above, moving swiftly and with purpose. At their center was Fiero. He landed between Elphaba and the soldiers, his presence immediately shifting the balance. Let her go, he said. The soldiers hesitated. Fiero raised his weapon, not in anger but with clear intent, and pointed it directly at Glinda. If you don't, he continued, I won't hesitate. The air grew tense. Glinda looked at him, shocked. You wouldn't, she said. Fiero's voice softened slightly, but his resolve did not change. I don't want to hurt you, he said, but I won't let them take her. There was no mistaking his choice. The soldiers slowly released Elphaba. For a brief moment, everything stood still. Then Fiero turned to her. Go, he said. Fly. Elphaba hesitated. I'm not leaving you, she said. You have to, he replied. They'll come after you again. Glinda stepped forward, her voice breaking slightly. He's not going to hurt me, she told the soldiers. Let her go. But they did not listen. Instead, as soon as Elphaba moved away, they turned their attention to Fiero. Chains were brought forward. No, Glinda said quickly. Stop. But it was too late. The soldiers seized Fiero, dragging him away despite his resistance. He looked back once, meeting Elphaba's eyes. I'm sorry, he said. Then he was gone. Elphaba stood there, unable to move. The monkeys circled around her, urging her to leave. You have to go. One of them seemed to signal. With a heavy heart, she climbed onto her broom and flew into the distance. Behind her, Glinda remained, watching everything fall apart. I told you to let him go, she said to the soldiers. He was a threat, one of them replied. He wasn't, she insisted. He would never hurt me. But her words no longer held the authority they once did. She turned away, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Meanwhile, Elphaba returned to her cottage. The quiet that had once comforted her now felt empty. She rushed inside and opened the grimoire, her hands trembling. Show me, she whispered. The pages began to glow. Images formed. Fiero. He was bound, surrounded by soldiers. They struck him again and again, demanding answers he refused to give. Elphaba's breath caught. "No," she said. She tried to reach him, to find where he was, but the vision blurred. The magic would not reveal his location. Frustration and grief surged through her. She closed the book, her thoughts racing. All the time she had tried to do the right thing. All the moments she had believed she could make things better. And yet everything seemed to lead to more pain. "They'll never stop," she said quietly. The realization settled in. No matter what she did, she would always be seen as the villain. Slowly, she stood. "If that's what they want," she said, her voice steady now, "then I'll give it to them." She lifted her head, her expression changing. "I'll be the Wicked Witch of the West." Not because she wanted to be feared, but because she no longer had anything left to lose. Back in the Emerald City, the wizard sat alone. The room that had once felt full of control now seemed empty. The events of the past day had shaken him deeply. A knock at the door broke the silence. Madame Morrible entered. "They're coming," she said. "Who?" the wizard asked. "A girl named Dorothy," Morrible replied. "And she's not alone." The wizard frowned. "What does that have to do with anything?" "They could be useful," Morrible said, "if we guide them correctly." The wizard hesitated, then nodded. "Bring them to me," he said. Later, Dorothy arrived, accompanied by 3 unusual companions: a tin man, a lion, and a figure made of straw. They stood before the wizard, hopeful. "We need your help," Dorothy said. The wizard looked at them carefully. "I will help you," he said. "But first, you must do something for me." They listened closely. "Bring me the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West," he said. "Only then will I grant your wishes." The group exchanged uncertain glances, but they agreed. Word of the mission spread quickly. Across Oz, people began to gather. Anger grew, fueled by fear and the stories they had been told. The Wicked Witch had to be stopped. The Tin Man stepped forward, his voice filled with emotion. "She did this to me," he said. "I'll face her myself." The lion followed, though hesitation lingered in his eyes. "She took me from my family," he added. The crowd murmured, their resolve strengthening. From a distance, Glinda watched. Something felt wrong. The anger, the fear. It had all grown too quickly, too intensely. She turned and rushed back inside the palace. She found Morrible again. "This has gone too far," Glinda said. "We need to stop this." Morrible looked at her calmly. "Elphaba can handle herself," she said. Glinda's eyes narrowed. "The storm," she said slowly. "You caused it, didn't you?" Morrible did not deny it. "I did what was necessary," she replied. The truth struck hard. "You killed my sister," Glinda said. Morrible's expression hardened. "You wanted this," she said. "You wanted to be loved. You wanted your perfect story." Glinda stepped back. "And now," Morrible continued, "you have it." But Glinda no longer felt the same. The illusion had shattered. Without another word, she turned and left. Outside, she mounted her horse and rode out of the city. She needed to find Elphaba before it was too late. And as the people of Oz prepared to hunt the Wicked Witch, the final pieces of the story began to fall into place. The sky above Oz had grown heavy, as if it carried the weight of everything that had happened. Elphaba stood within her darkened castle. The grim eyrie opened before her. The air around her felt different now. Stronger, colder, shaped by the choice she had made. She was no longer trying to prove herself or seek acceptance. She had accepted what the world called her, the Wicked Witch of the West. Outside, the wind whispered through broken towers and empty halls. The monkeys moved quietly around her, no longer prisoners, but loyal allies. They watched her with cautious trust, sensing both her strength and her sorrow. Elphaba, one of them gestured, bringing her attention back. She looked down at the grimoire again, focusing. "Show me," she said. The pages shimmered, revealing a vision. YMIRO. He was still alive, but barely. The soldiers had taken him far from the city, keeping him hidden as they carried out their orders. He had refused to betray Elphaba, even under pain. Elphaba clenched her fists. "I'll find you," she whispered. But the vision faded again before she could learn where he was. She closed the book slowly. For now, there was something else she had to do. "Find the girl," she said to the monkeys. They understood immediately. Dorothy, the one who carried Nessero's shoes. The one connected to everything that had been set into motion. The monkeys flew out into the dark sky, searching. Elsewhere, Dorothy and her companions moved cautiously along the path. The journey had grown more dangerous with each step. The Tin Man walked heavily beside her, his metal body reflecting the faint light. "She turned me into this," he said quietly. "I just want things to be right again." The lion walked close by, glancing nervously at the shadows. "I don't want to fight," he admitted, "but I have to." The scarecrow stayed thoughtful, observing everything around them. Dorothy held her basket tightly. "I just want to go home," she said. Before they could go further, the sound of wings filled the air. The monkeys descended. Dorothy gasped as they surrounded her, lifting her gently but firmly off the ground. Her companions tried to follow, but they were quickly separated. "Don't worry," Dorothy called. "I'll be okay." The monkeys carried her toward the castle. Inside, Elphaba waited. When Dorothy was brought before her, she studied her carefully. The girl looked frightened, but there was something else too. Innocence. "You have something that belongs to me," Elphaba said. Dorothy looked down at the shoes. "I didn't mean to take them," she said. "They were given to me." Elphaba's expression softened slightly, but only for a moment. "Take them off," she said, "and I will help you go home." Dorothy hesitated. Before she could respond, another voice echoed through the hall. "Elphaba." Both of them turned. Glinda had arrived. She stepped inside, breathless from her journey. "You have to let her go," Glinda said. "Everyone is coming. They'll be here soon." Elphaba straightened. "I'm not afraid of them anymore," she replied. "You should be," Glinda said. "They believe every lie they've been told." Elphaba's gaze hardened. "Then let them come," she said. At that moment, a monkey approached, carrying something small. Piece of fabric. Elphaba took it. Her heart stopped. It was part of Fiero's clothing. The meaning was clear. Glinda saw it too. Her face fell. "He's gone," she whispered. Elphaba's hand tightened around the fabric, but she did not cry. Instead, her expression became calm. Too calm. "It's time," she said quietly. She walked toward a large basin and began filling a bucket with water. Glinda stepped forward quickly. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Elphaba, stop." But Elphaba shook her head. "This is how it ends," she said. Glinda grabbed her arm. "I can fix this," she said. "I'll tell everyone the truth." Elphaba looked at her. "No," she said gently. "You can't." "Why not?" Glinda asked. "Because they need to believe in you," Elphaba replied. "And for that, they need to believe in me too." Glinda's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want this," she said. "I know," Elphaba said. She reached for the grimoire and placed it in Glinda's hands. "You have to learn," she said. "You have to become who they think you are." "I can't even read this," Glinda said. "You will," Elphaba replied. For a moment, they stood there, facing each other. "We changed each other," Glinda said softly. Elphaba nodded. You were my only real friend, she said. Glinda smiled sadly. You had many friends, she said, but only one who mattered. They held each other's hands, not wanting to let go, but they both knew they had to. Elphaba guided Glinda to a small closet. Hide, she said. Glinda hesitated. Elphaba, please, Elphaba said. Reluctantly, Glinda stepped inside. The door closed. Moments later, footsteps echoed through the castle. Dorothy entered the room, holding the bucket. She looked around, frightened but determined. Elphaba stood before her. For a brief moment, everything was still. Then Dorothy threw the water. It struck Elphaba. The effect was immediate. She began to dissolve, her form breaking apart as though she were made of something fragile. No, Glinda whispered from behind the door. Elphaba's voice faded. Then she was gone. Only her hat remained. Dorothy stared, shocked. Then, slowly, she picked up the broom and left the castle. Silence followed. The door opened. Glinda stepped out, tears streaming down her face. She picked up the hat, holding it close. The loss felt real, too real. But then, something unexpected happened. A monkey approached her, and for the first time it spoke. Glinda, it said. She looked up in shock. The monkey handed her a small bottle. Recognition flickered in her eyes. It belonged to the wizard, and in that moment, a new truth began to take shape, one that would change everything. Glinda held the small bottle carefully, her hands trembling. The monkey watched her closely, as if waiting for her to understand. The moment felt quiet, yet filled with meaning. There was something important about the object, something that connected pieces of the past she had not yet fully seen. This belonged to the wizard, Glinda said softly. The monkey nodded. A memory stirred in her mind. She turned at once and made her way back toward the Emerald City, holding the bottle tightly as though it might disappear if she let go. The journey felt shorter than before, driven by urgency rather than doubt. When she arrived, she did not stop to greet anyone. She went straight to the wizard. He sat alone again, quieter than ever. The events that had unfolded had left him uncertain, his confidence shaken beyond repair. Glinda stepped into the room. We need to talk, she said. The wizard looked up. What is it now? He asked, his voice tired. Glinda placed the bottle in front of him. Do you remember this? She asked. He glanced at it casually at first, but then his expression changed. Recognition. Slowly he picked it up. Yes, he said. I used to carry this. Glinda watched him carefully. It belonged to someone else before you, she said. The wizard's grip tightened. A distant look filled his eyes as memories began to surface. Memories he had long ignored or tried to forget. There was a woman, he said slowly. A long time ago. Glinda said nothing, letting him continue. I wasn't supposed to stay, he admitted, but I did. And then I left. The truth came together piece by piece. Elphaba's mother, Glinda said quietly. The wizard froze. He looked at her, then back at the bottle. No, he whispered, but deep down he already knew. She kept this, Glinda continued. She never let it go. The wizard's voice shook. That would mean... Yes, Glinda said. Elphaba was your daughter. The room fell silent. The weight of the truth settled heavily between them. The wizard staggered back slightly, as though the ground beneath him had shifted. He struggled to speak. I didn't know. But the realization did not change what had happened. He had spent years building lies, turning the people of Oz against her. And now he had helped bring about her end. I destroyed my own child, he said, his voice breaking. Glinda's expression remained firm, though sadness lingered behind it. "You've done a lot of harm," she said. "To her, to the animals, to everyone." The wizard lowered his head. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Glinda took a breath. "You're leaving," she said. "Today." He looked up, surprised. "You'll tell them whatever you need to," she continued. "Make up a story. But you're done here. You won't come back." For a moment he did not respond. Then slowly he nodded. "I understand," he said. There was nothing left for him in Oz. Glinda turned away, but her work was not finished. She went next to Madame Morrible. The older woman stood near a window, watching the city as though she still controlled everything within it. "It's over," Glinda said. Morrible turned, unimpressed. "Is it?" she asked. Glinda stepped closer. "Look outside," she said. Morrible glanced out the window. In the distance, the wizard's transport was already preparing to leave. Her expression shifted slightly. "You sent him away," she said. "Yes," Glinda replied. Morrible turned back to her. "You still need me," she said. "You can't maintain this without." "No," Glinda interrupted. For the first time, there was no hesitation in her voice. "I don't." Morrible's calm began to crack. "Everything you have is because of me," she said sharply. "The people love you because I made them." Glinda shook her head. "No," she said. "They loved the idea of me, and I let that go too far." She stepped closer. "You hurt people," she said. "You hurt my sister." Morrible did not deny it. "I did what was necessary," she replied again. But the words no longer held power. Glinda raised her hand. The monkeys appeared. They surrounded Morrible, closing in. "You kept others in cages," Glinda said. "Now you'll understand what that feels like." For the first time, Morrible looked uncertain. "Glinda," she began, but it was too late. The monkeys carried her away. Silence returned to the room. Glinda stood alone once more. But this time something had changed. She was no longer following someone else's plan. She stepped out onto the balcony, facing the people of Oz. They gathered below, waiting. "The Wicked Witch is gone," someone called. A wave of relief spread through the crowd. Glinda looked at them, her heart heavy but steady. "Yes," she said. "She is." The words felt strange, but she knew why they had to be said. Then a small voice spoke from the crowd. "Were you her friend?" A young girl stepped forward, looking up at her with curiosity. Glinda paused. "Our paths crossed," she said. It was not the full truth, but it was enough for now. She looked beyond the crowd. "Animals of Oz," she called. From the shadows they began to appear, slowly, cautiously. "You don't have to hide anymore," Glinda said. "They belong here," she continued, addressing everyone, "just as much as anyone else." There was hesitation at first. Then, one by one, the people began to accept it. The fear that had once ruled them began to fade. "If you allow me," Glinda said, "I will make things right. For everyone." The crowd responded with cheers. For the first time, her role truly meant something. Not just an image, but a responsibility. Later, far from the city, in a quiet and hidden place, a figure moved through the shadows. The Scarecrow, silent and unnoticed, found a hidden passage and stepped inside. The walls shifted. A door opened, and there, in the dim light, stood Elphaba, alive. She stepped forward slowly, no longer the figure the world believed her to be gone. Behind her, another figure emerged. YMIRO, changed, but unmistakably himself. Through magic, he had survived, transformed into the very figure others now saw as a simple straw man. They looked at each other, relief filling the space between them. "It worked," YMIRO said. Elphaba nodded. "They believe it," she replied. The plan had been dangerous, but it had given them something they could never have had before. Freedom. They embraced, holding onto the moment. Then, without looking back, they stepped away from Oz. Together, leaving behind the roles the world had forced upon them, and choosing, at last, their own path forward.